Hello, in this video I will explain how to solve order of operation problems. Order of operations allows us to prioritize what we're going to do first. Are we going to add, subtract, multiply, divide? So there's an acronym called PEMDAS, and that represents, the P represents parenthesis. We're going to do that first. Then we're going to do exponents next, then multiplication, division, finally addition, subtraction. Okay, PEMDAS. So this has the highest priority up here. You're going to do this first. And this has the lowest priority. You're going to do this last. So the P and the E are pretty straightforward. And by the way, the P parenthesis means we're going to simplify inside the parenthesis. That's what it means. All right, we got to do the inside of the parenthesis, not outside of the parenthesis, not next to it, inside. Now, as far as multiplication and division, this is a little tricky here. We're going to see a couple of examples in the system. And this goes from left to right. So whichever comes first, left to right. So this is called PEMDAS. However, there are cases where you can call this PEDMUS. In other words, division might come before multiplication if it is left to right, if it comes first. Okay, so even though we call it PEMDAS, it's really whichever comes first, division or multiplication, we do that first. So that could be a little tricky there. All right, so this is a handout that I created for the course, and you can find it on Canvas. So there's one way to memorize this PEMDAS acronym, and it's please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. You might have heard that before. Okay, so in here I talk about other things you should watch out for, and you can read through all that. And on the back of this, I have three examples we're going to try. Now, the ones in the system that I'm going to show you and we'll go over are similar to this one. The next example 2 is a little bit more difficult than what's on the system, and example 3, that's way more difficult than what's on the system. Okay, but I still want to do one that difficult because you might see that in a future math class. All right, so now let's hop over to My Math Test. Okay, so for question 1 here, they're saying to simplify this. So we have 9 plus 2 to the second power, or just 9 plus 2 squared. So for the order of operations, we have to come up here and look to see which do we have to do first. So the question is, so we go this way, right? We go from left to right, highest priority, lowest priority. Do we have any parentheses? And the answer is no. Then we go to the next item, which is exponents. Do we have exponents? Yes, we do. So we got to take care of this first. So what you're going to do is take the 9, bring it down, and then you have to simplify this. Well, 2 to the second power is the same as 2 times 2. Now, remember, this is a review real quick. We're not multiplying these two. What we're saying is this is the base, right? That's the base. And this tells us we multiply the base 2 times. So 2 times 2. We're not multiplying that. This is the base, 2. And this tells us how many times the base is multiplied by itself. And 2 times 2 is 4. So this part simplifies to 4. And then you really don't even need the order of operations anymore because all you have is one operation left. So 9 plus 4 is 13. Okay, let's type that in the system and see if it's correct. It is. Okay, let's try the next one. Okay, question 2 says 14 times 7 plus 44. Now, one thing you have to be careful of here is that these pluses sometimes look like division symbols, and sometimes division looks like pluses. So you got to look at it carefully. All right, so here we go. So we have two operations here. One of them is multiplication, the other is addition, and the question is which goes first? And the answer is we've got to look up here. This will tell us. We go from left to right. Parentheses, no. Exponents, no. Multiplication, yeah. So this comes first before addition. Okay, so we have to do multiplication first. So on the side somewhere, just simply multiply 14 times 7. And let's see what we get. Okay, 98. So 14 times 7 is 98. So this part here is 98. And then you bring down the plus 44. Okay, so do it in multiple steps. Don't try to do everything in one step. Use multiple steps to solve these kinds of problems. So now we're going to add these. Now don't add these horizontally, just simply rewrite them vertically, right? 98 plus 44. 12, 10, and 4 is 14. So the answer appears to be 142. Let's type that in and see what happens. Okay. All right, let's keep going. So here we have 49 times 2 divided by, right? Looks like a division symbol. You got to be careful there. Divided by 14. All right. Now let's come up here and let's see what we got to do first. We have multiplication and division. So P, do we have parentheses? No. Do we have any exponents? No. Do we have multiplication? Yes, we do. And we also have division. Now remember, right? Remember, this could be the tricky part. Whenever you have both multiplication and division, you go from left to right and you do whichever comes first. So because multiplication is first from left to right, we got to multiply first. All right, so let's multiply this thing. 49 times 2. 49 times 2 is 98. Bring down your divided by 14. Okay, now let's erase that. So now we have to divide 14 into 98. That's not an easy one. The best way to handle this is to simply guess. Really, just guess, right? 14 times 2 is 28. 28 maybe times 3 might be close to 96. So I'm going to guess 6 times, maybe 7. I think 7 might be a better guess. Let's try 7 and see what happens. In other words, let's multiply 14 times 7 and see if we get 98. Let's multiply 14 times 7 and see if we get 98. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 2 is 9. It sure is. So 98 divided by 14 is 7. Why? Because 7 times 14 is 98. 7 times 14 is 98. Do you see that inverse relationship between multiplication and division, right? So why did I choose 7? Okay, well, the reason is, okay, I made a good guess. The reason is because I was thinking to myself, so I have 98 here and 14 here. If I multiply 14 by something, what would it have to be so that the number ends in 8? Well, I know that 7 times 4 is 28, so that's a good guess. If I would have said 6 times 14, well, 6 times 4 is 24, and this is not 4, that's 8. It's a guessing game. So if it takes you a couple of guesses, that's fine. But that's one way to do a smart guess, right? All right, so we say the answer is 7. Let's try it, see what happens. Okay, and this is our last question here. So here we have 15. That's a division symbol. Be careful. It's not addition. Divided by 5, and then times 7 minus 5. Now remember, multiplication is expressed in 3 different ways. The times, the multiplication dot, or the parenthesis. And here we have a parenthesis. So this 5 is multiplying with all this inside. So this is multiplication here, right? This is multiplication because multiplication is shown in 3 different ways. So what do we do first? Let's go to this help here, right? PEMDAS chart. P, do we have parenthesis? There it is. And like I said earlier, when I talk about parenthesis, I'm saying simplify the inside. I'm not saying multiply because that comes from the outside. P means parenthesis. In other words, simplify the inside first. So what are you going to do with all this? Just bring it down, just the way it is. 15 divided by 5. And then you must put the empty parenthesis there. So we will simplify this in a minute. Okay, I see students putting like a plus there. No, there's no plus there. This 5 is up against the parenthesis. It also has to be up against the parenthesis right here. So let's simplify this. Well, 7 minus 5 is 2. It's 2. Okay, so one step is done. We simplified inside the parenthesis. Let's go back to the beginning again. Do we have a parenthesis? We still have a parenthesis, but the question is, can we simplify the inside anymore? No, it's just 2. We already simplified it. So go to the next thing, which is exponents. Do we have any exponents? Any powers? No. Go to the next thing. Do you have multiplication? We do. It's right here. Are we going to do that first? Well, we got to be careful because we got to ask, do we also have division? And here it is. Here it is. So we have both division and multiplication at the same time. And remember, whenever you have both at the same time, you do you perform the operation that comes first from left to right. So sometimes, like I said earlier, this PEMDAS is not called PEMDAS, but PEDMAS. Yeah, bizarre, but true, right? It's whichever comes first. So we got to divide first, not multiply, divide, because we have both division and multiplication at the same time. So we got to do division. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And again, when you bring the 2 down, don't put like a plus there. Bring it down exactly the way it is, which is inside of a parenthesis. Because this is multiplication, it has to stay as multiplication. All right. So 15 divided by 5 is 3. Bring down your times 2. So now we have 3 times 2. Well, 3 times 2 is 6. 6. All right. So let's see. Is that the answer? It is. Thanks for watching. Now it's your turn.